Thank you. I'm doing very good. And I learned a very new lesson in life that I never had to do. Now I've done exploration, so I learned how to wipe my butt with cactus, but now I've officially learned how to haul water from the river to the toilet so you can flush it. Yeah, most people don't realize, and unfortunately this caught me in it, so I kind of had to out myself, but I've always broadcasted in duplicate studios, one west of the Rockies, one in central flyover US, and one east of the Mississippi. So I was east of the Mississippi, which is here.
Right.
And it had rained for a couple of 3 days. Now, this was a steady, gentle rain. In mountain country, that's not that big of a deal. Then the hurricane hit. And with the hurricane, we also had what had to be Category 4 tornadoes come with it. Now, this path followed identically the 1916 path that did the same thing long ago. So it wasn't, climate effect. It was just a reproducing of history and what happened. Anyway, when the rains came in, we got about 12 inches of rain within a matter of a few hours. So you're talking 25% of your annual rainfall falls within a few hours. Well, you can hear it coming. Literally. Now, the good thing about it is I'm up mountain and up country, meaning the higher part of Appalachia.
Right.
And as it starts coming down, so even where I'm near the water, you could hear it coming, you could hear it moving boulders, you could hear it moving timber, and then all of a sudden the power went out. Now, as this races downstream, you have to understand the compressive force that it flows at. And so by the time it reached where you saw most of the devastation, it was 2 times the force of what goes over Niagara Falls at any 1 second interval. And most people don't understand the force of that water. So this is basically coming at you at the rate of per second, coming at you 47 planes rolled into a ball coming at you. And so I did some videos and I showed people because they don't understand rocks and lumber and everything else. They just kind of think of people drowning or getting caught in their houses.
Right.
Folks, I would not be surprised if the death toll pushes 10,000. But see, there's a problem. Our government's not dealing with it and not reporting it. You also have to understand in an event like this, not to be graphic, but you have to understand when you get hit by this force, there's nothing left. You're not even spam. There's just nothing left. You're a lucky one if you drown and your body's intact, but everything else gets pulverized. I've seen small towns that may have, 600 to 1,000 people in them. They're ordering hundreds of body bags. They're still trying to dig out. Many still don't have power. Of course, there's no internet, and you got to file for your relief for people over the internet. There is none. FEMA's not really on the ground. They're blocking everything, and now they've said, "Oh, we're scared of the people of the mountains," or they threatened us, or whatever, and they're leaving. And I went personally. Now, you have to understand, I'm a prepper.
I know.
You just have to understand that. I am a prepper. I've prepped my entire life. You could come to my place in a pinch and we'll sit and we'll just eat for the next year and hang out and not worry about that crap. But I got caught off guard, and what got me was fuel. In other words, I hadn't properly prepared from a fuel standpoint. I kind of let it lag a little bit. So as soon as the power went out and you run through your fuel, and I have triple backups. I have gasoline backup, I have diesel backup, and I have propane backup. But when those go really quick, there were no roads to travel to get anything. There was nobody that would take a credit card or a debit card. There was no pulling money out of machines. There was just nothing. Wow. And it's still this way for many people. And our government's not doing anything. They're hampering. You've probably seen a lot of my work over the years in exploration and with family land and stuff. I'm used to being in a helicopter, working out of a helicopter. even if you're a private pilot or anything, they would not let anybody take off and help anybody else. Elon tried to send in satellites, they seized them. Send in generators, FEMA seized them.
What is their justification for this? Or did they even offer any justification?
No, there really was none. And when people challenged them, like, where in the hell have you been? You just sent $60 billion to the Ukraine and
Right.
you're not providing it here. It literally was something like out of a bad DEI commercial. Oh my God, you've offended me. You scared me. And they left. They left because they felt threatened by
Right.
the people in the area. Well, you're talking about people that have lost everything,
right?
That are suffering. Folks, you think COVID was not getting toilet paper. There is no toilet paper. There's nothing. You're not going to be able to buy anything. A lot of these small town grocery stores, they're not being restocked yet. Right. And I can show, and if you're on the ground, and I did some videos, I put a lot of them on my Telegram.
Great.
You can look down Appalachian towns and roads where you can see a couple 100 yards and it's this nice idyllic town on the side of the mountain and river over here. There's not even a brick left from any of the buildings. None. Right here, we lost livestock, and it's bad enough you have to deal with just lumber and stuff, but when you have like 40 head of cattle just disappear.
Oh my God.
And a grinder. But here's another interesting kicker. If I was to look at the particular swath that ran down in North Carolina has a $17 or $19 billion lumber industry.
Right.
One tree that would be about 2 feet around, we'll call it a white oak, in 8-foot sections. Now, you'll get 8 to 9 of these sections in one tree because they're majestic. They're all off limits in the national forest. Don't cut them. Right. Well, one of those little bitty logs in the raw market will bring $1,000. Wow. Now, these things are laying everywhere where the government has never let anybody forest particular lands. I did a quick mathematical calculation based on what we saw and applied it to the rest of the area. You're probably talking about $750 million. Wow. And prime lumber went down. It's laying there. It has to be cut up anyway. Our federal government will not let anybody pick it up. You pick it up, you're going to jail, and their orders are to incinerate it. I think a lot of this is feet dragging there. These are in places that come from that old quote they used to call sundown towns, which is BS, but because they're predominantly white. They're not doing anything. As a matter of fact, when you try to bring in water and food, they're not only turning your back, they're confiscating it. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I've helped many times during disasters. I don't get it. It makes no rhyme or reason. And the fact, the only reason this part of the country in some areas is still operational is because all of the power companies got together and said, screw you. And farmers, and we're all pulling out tractors and saws, and everybody's helping clear it so we can get to people. Amidst what does the media cover? Well, those mountain people had beards and they were intimidating, so FEMA had to run for their lives because there was a militia after them.
I know.
Well, I'm very well prepped because, my rules of a place is you got to have multiple wells, which we do. You want to be near fresh water, which we are, and you want to have massive food supplies, etc. Where you get caught is you can even have a well, but you have to understand when the power goes and your auxiliary power goes, there's no pump to pump it out of the well. So you either have to have hand pumps or you got to have solar pumps. Our backup we're doing now, believe it or not, is we're going ahead and I acquired a coal generator. Our backup, middle of coal country, we're going to bring coal in. That's the one thing that can never go down, so we have to have them all. Wow. But water's the number one thing that's going to get you because without water, no hygiene. I mean, you can only use the toilet so many times and not flush.
I know.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then even if you have prepping foods, you still need water. Now, all day long, I've got prepping foods and whatever, but it doesn't account. I probably lost, I don't know, $6-7 grand of frozen and cattle
Right.
and exotic meats and fish and
Oh,
stuff, just
sure.
gone, just totally gone. And then in this part of the country, you have to be very careful how you throw it out, because you don't just throw it out, because the bear is going to be at your door the next
Right,
day, if not that
exactly.
night, right?
Right,
And so you have to
right.
be extremely careful through all of this, or you make yourself look like food walking through the
Target.
forest. And so
Yeah.
that's the main thing, just water. You can live on a lot of things, but you better have your water. For city dwellers, here is what I would tell you. If you and you know, there's a difference in, you know, we can all be snobs about water, but in a pinch, don't worry. First off, most people, you know, you can drink from the top of your toilet. It is clean water. I know that sounds horrible, but is in fact clean.
Right.
But when you live in the city, the two things you can do is you can now get what's called wall tanks. And they can be, you know, about yay wide,
Right.
but they'll slide into your closet, back wall or side wall, and you can fill that up with water. And you might be able to have 100, 200 gallons of water and be okay. Or under your bed, you literally can get something that looks like a water mattress,
Oh,
and
wow.
literally run from the kitchen. You put in a hose, has an attachment, fill it up, and it just lays there under your bed.
Wow, that's
But you
great.
can take care of these things very easily and have them in your house. But the one thing is water.
Right. Very important for people to think about that. And I know that that's something that just kind of goes by the wayside. Now, were you able to, how were you able to communicate? And you know, are people able to communicate at all? Nothing, right?
There was nothing, no text. When we could finally, when I could get away from the mountain and I could get into quote unquote civilization, you're an hour and a half away. You'll finally get text if you're lucky. You'll drive an hour or 2 hours to a city so you can try to get to Home Depots or Lowe's or something like that, only to get there and they didn't have power either.
Right. Oh my
Right?
God.
So you will be on the road hunting and pecking any given day, 3 or 4 hours of time to try to find something that's open, so you can at least buy some very simple necessities. And in this case, it was just water, right? Now, I don't hesitate to have water out of the river and purifiers, but you just want to be able to get it bulk in gallon jugs, and also always passing it out to everybody. So being able to go in and buy pallets of water and get them around, that was really the main directive. And then me in my world was just to find connectivity so I could get reports and video
Right.
footage to the outside world, because nobody was reporting on it. When I finally could pop up online, it was just like I'm watching these news places talk about it. It was disgusting. The interesting area that will probably be hit the most are downstreams. You know, a lot of places in this country, coal is very efficient. And coal is a wonderful fuel, and we should be mining the hell out
Right.
of
I
it,
know.
right?
Yeah.
But a byproduct of coal production, and we now do it without tainting the environment with smoke, that they give you the old London BS about it, but it's not done anymore. However, when coal is fired, it creates ash, just like anything that's burned. But this is coal ash. An interesting byproduct of coal ash is if you were to put ashes in a 5-gallon bucket, an average man can't carry that bucket. It's too heavy.
Wow.
Because it's fly ash. Now, it's fly ash that built the Hoover Dam. It's an amazing building material.
Well,
Now,
look, there's another thing that people could do, not just the lumber.
Well, think about that for a moment. Now, here's the interesting BS conundrum. Fly ash makes impervious concrete. It
Get
is
outta
what
here.
built,
Wow.
right, the Hoover Dam, fly ash to make concrete. But because it's naturally occurring and everybody wants to use their secret formula, the government really doesn't let you use it in concrete. Therefore, it sets out by the mines on the side of the river, and it's in piles and piles and piles by literally the billions of tons. And the government doesn't want you to touch it, wants you to pay for environmental damages. And now with massive floods, it'll wash it into the river, and there'll be a toxic event because it does actually contain, ironically enough, all of the interesting metals we need to make electronics, but the government makes it hard to deal with it because they consider it a toxic substance. It's another one of those BS things where politicians get involved. It's horse crap. And you give an example. If we were to turn around in this country and mix our road base with fly ash for concrete in this country, which we have, I told you, billions of pounds of,
Right.
we would never have to repair a single highway ever. I'm still trying to figure out how. All right, but let me go backwards. I already know how bad people are going to use it because they say, look, you just drop off a ballot anywhere, we'll count it. That's not a good thing. There are still bad people out there. They're bussing in illegals
I know.
in the Tennessee part, which would be Eastern Tennessee, because you got Tennessee, Virginia, North Carolina, they all connect in the corner. There were gangs of Somalis and others literally just pillaging and looting everybody, right? Gangs of these guys, they just took advantage of it. I'm worried about the fact that it's going to make ballot ID, true ballot ID in states that require ID, it's now possibly going to make that go away. I know it's kind of coinky-dink, but I don't think they can move hurricanes. I do know they can seed weather, but to move them is a whole different issue. But I think what we're really going to see is the left, deep state and otherwise, say, you know what, never waste a crisis. And I think they're going to drop things in.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that can be done proactively is we've got to get into these areas like we're doing. You've got to basically pick up people, take them to the polls, wait it out, make sure that they get there and make sure they vote.
Yeah.
And this is where it's really going to be, you have to help your neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where America survives or dies is about this, and it's true. I would have to tell people, look, a lot of people get mad at me because I pushed back on prominent people saying, oh, you don't need to do the voter rolls. That's just sweeping dirt floors. Well, by us not paying attention to cleaning the voter rolls this last 3 years, the left has added 8 to 10 million more illegals to the rolls.
Right.
I talked about it because most people don't understand, and let's just unpack that. We on the right, because the GOP is feckless and useless. And by the way, Trump gets in. I think Democrats are gone and over, and I think Republicans are gone and over. I think this whole slate's going to be wiped clean and we'll become something better. But put that aside for a moment.
Yeah.
Is they did nothing. Now, they always talk about the voter rolls, and if you saw Youngkin in Virginia,
yes.
he was all trumpeting 6,303 illegals. They took them off the voter rolls. Well, the DOJ came in and immediately filed lawsuits that you can't take those people off. Now, the first thing I tell people is, do you not understand? You're watching the left tell you, we put that crap there and we need it, so you're not going to take it away. It's not that machines. That's just not how it works, right?
Right.
And so they're using a loophole. There's a loophole that says, and I've always backdated this, if we're going to do our work, and you've heard me say this before, we got to go day of election, we backdate 90 days, because you can't take anything off the voter rolls. You back 90 days from there that it's going to take you to do the work, and you back 90 days from there for you to fight it out. That's what the deadline really was that people didn't pay attention to.
Right.
However, the government is now trying to say, the suits are, well, you can't take those illegals off the roll because it's within what's called the quiet period, the 90-day quiet period, and you can't do that before elections. And I look at the GOP, God bless Laura Trump, I love her, but this is not her bailiwick, and you have other people handling it, and they're fighting that point. Here's the bottom line. At the state level and at the federal level, it is illegal to provide a non-citizen with a registration. That's a felony. It is illegal to submit that registration to turn them into a voter. That's another felony. It is illegal to actually approve an illegal as a voter when you know it. That is a felony. It's illegal to drop them on the voter rolls. It's illegal to print a ballot for an illegal, and it's illegal to mail or hand a ballot to illegal.
Wow.
There are 7 different individual felonies on everybody's books that are already there long before this crap of the 90-day stuff. But the GOP is so complicit and feckless. that they basically say, look, you can't put these on by a crime, and they want to fight over this. Well, it's a pause time, and that's just how the left has weaponized it. Why? Because if you look at our half-ass rules, and it says we can't remove anybody from the voter rolls, that's clearly what it says. It doesn't go as far as if they're illegal and they're dead, we're removing them. It's because nobody did their job. It's a statement not only of the American people, it's a statement of conservatives, and it's a statement of the GOP. One of the things I'm fighting right now is if you mark on your ballot extra marks, that means you vote the oval and then you draw a line to the candidate's name, or you circle the candidate's name, and all this stuff that GOP leads are promoting.
I know.
Right? It's being promoted, Lindell's organizations, other, mark your ballot, circle your ballot, blah, blah, blah. And they're telling you it won't cancel your vote. That's not the issue. It will, at minimal, temporarily suspend your vote. And when you suspend it, that's why we have high adjudications. They need high adjudications so they can work underneath. Well, I was watching Jack Probasek the other day, and he posted and he marked his ballot with a big O check, drew a great big O check that went past the oval and went into the next margin. And he says, get out there and vote and do it. So I pinged him on Twitter and I said, Jack, it's great that you voted, but your artwork there just forced adjudicated your ballot. Now, what forced adjudication means is it's not actually immediately going to go through. They can cancel your vote. It doesn't mean they're going to cancel your vote. But what it does is it keeps it from counting until a human looks at it.
Right.
So Jack didn't reach out, but he did reach out to the GOP. Now, the GOP answer that they gave Jack, which Jack repeated, I hear, on Roger Stone's programs the other day, is, hey, when I made that mark, I was told it didn't spoil my ballot. Now, herein lies the problem. Spoiling the ballot means it has a definition. Something tore on your ballot, something puked on your ballot, something broke on your ballot, and they have to make a new one. So the GOP's answer to Jack was, well, that won't spoil your ballot. That has nothing to do with it. It will adjudicate the ballot. And the system banks on people knowing.
Right.
So if 1 million people did what Poso did and did that, that means 1 million ballots will come in and they can hold them if they want hours or days. They see every vote. They know how you really voted.
Right.
And you're giving them election day actionable intelligence they can use underneath to swap the vote. And I tell you, some of the things I'm seeing come in right now from states with Uwakava, what they did overseas, these ballots are already coming in from overseas, where they somehow flooded registrations overseas. I don't know how they did it.
I don't either.
99% Kamala. They've already started roaring through the doors. Literally be punitive toward them to remove their funding, government funding, right? Almost immediately. But when you see some of the operatives and stuff, they have operatives inside the universities. It's like I talked about on my program today. I talked about Stephen Richter, the county recorder there in Arizona. Come to find out, and him getting all of this results of the audit starting in 21 removed, he worked with a group.
I know.
And they popped it overseas that is funded by Soros, Clinton, Google, Meta, and Bill Gates, with an attorney that comes out of Perkins Coie, who is Katie Hobbs' right-hand person. Can you imagine the Republican there in Arizona? He knew what he was doing, going to Katie Hobbs, say, we got to fix this. No, it's because they're all rat bastard plants. I don't feel that. I think it's going to be overwhelming. I think we're going to see traditional Democrats who have said, I don't stand for this crap either. I won't agree with this, and you're not taking care of Americans. And I have to tell you, that's where sometimes miracles come in the package of a disaster. And when they watch the government respond to fellow Americans in this disaster with Helene and Milton, and when they just did a package for the Ukraine, I think people are fed up. I think the turnout, for two reasons, will be the most we've ever seen. It'll be the most people realize we're fighting for America and get out, and it will be the most that the left and deep state will have to cheat to try to stay ahead. I hear that Mark Elias has 60, 62, 64 lawsuits in the hopper ready to go. They're already predetermined it out.
Right.
Yes, they're not going to certify the same crap that they said against Trump, but they're going to do themselves.
Right.
But yes, the kicker and the challenge is not election day at this point. It's the difference between November 5th and January 20th. Now, some of the things that could happen here, I expect a move in this that Biden, whether it be 25th Amendment or otherwise, the Democrats will make a move to officially make Kamala president. Now, they'll do that for the cheap score to say they had the first female president. Then I think the next thing they're going to do is very possible, basically issue just a rash of pardons on all of them.
Wow.
Right? Now you have people like Miley, who basically, got caught saying he was going to let China know if Trump was going to do something. That's treason. He should be court-martialed.
100%. Yep.
You're going to see a rash of they're going to do pardons. They're going to pardon themselves, but they'll accomplish that, I think, by a Kamala swap.
Wow. Yeah.
Now, there's pending directives out there, 42 of them, that any one of them can be declared an emergency. And what it does is it gives the president specifically almost 150 new laws to deal under.
I know.
I think these guys I think the Democrats are dead and they know it. I think Republicans are dead and they know it. I think their grifting is dead and they know it. So they are the wounded, bleeding out beast. And that's when they're most dangerous. And I truly believe they're going to do anything they can to keep Donald J. Trump from getting in. So now we're not playing some game for November 5th. It's that 5th to January 20th.
I agree.
We have seen nothing yet. We think we've suffered. I don't even think it's begun yet. I don't think so when it comes to when you're doing things that undermine your country. And if you basically look at, they've made a flip. They stopped calling us domestic terrorists. And now they're saying we're domestic terrorists and we use social media as a weapon to destroy democracy. That's their new little bent that they're beginning to work on to get us all banned. But what I find really interesting is I really think there is tremendous legal action to be had against the UN. Because, see, it's the UN who was passing out credit cards, phones, and money. Right. And it was the UN that was directing these people here to the United States. I think the UN has tremendous culpability. And yes, if these rat bastards pardoned themselves, I would rip apart the UN. I'd bring them charges for everything that could be done on aiding and abetting within the categories they did. The UN itself, broke our crimes in assisting to get that done. And with some of them, most of them being known criminals, a lot of them, and some of them being known terrorists. That's kind of where I hope somebody takes that lead and forces those efforts. You're going to find that the Faucian guys, yes, they should be held to account. It's going to be hard to do, but it should be done. You're going to find these politicians covered themselves. Okay, great. Let's go cut one of the other snakes' heads off. And I think that's the UN. Just like you found UN inside Israel. And when you find Hamas leaders finally get obliterated, you find out they were freaking professors there at the UN school. That's why we need to cut off the head of that snake. I think it's gonna end up being a little more sinister. Let me tell you what's going on. Most people don't know this. If you do any business deal, when you do your business deals, you should, if you're operating correctly, you should set up separate corporations. You should never do a deal as an individual. Right. The second part of it is high net worth individuals, ultra high net worth individuals always use multiple corporations and always have. And it's a way to protect assets, to protect yourself against lawsuits, et cetera. Under the radar, the Biden administration flew in a law. And it basically said, as of close, it may be this year or next year, as of close this year, every single corporation must now reveal it's up corporation owned. In other words, if another corporation owns stock, you have to kind of now show the things that were hidden. and it's an instant $10,000 fine if you don't.
Wow. Oh, that's that
And
new
you might think
reporting,
about wealthy
right.
families having a couple of hundred, corporations, just like Hunter and stuff did. You use them for good, you can use them for bad. It's an instant $10,000 fine. So they're trying to flush out and find what everybody has where. And I think that's because they're potentially planning a raid on all the corporate structures and everything
Right.
else while they hide behind 501(c)(3)s in the government. Right. It's because once it's transferred to them, they can do what they want. There is no oversight.
Right.
The other part of it is it's that damn little loophole. If they decide to send something back to the senator's 501(c)(3) personal stuff, it's totally allowed. And that's where we're going to have to figure out how to deal with this. Okay, you appropriated $1 billion, but somehow 700 million of it came back to the US for all of these 501(c)(3)s that everybody owns. We have to figure out how to slam that loophole. And that's how we'll get back to $1 billion spending appropriations and away from $1 trillion spending appropriations. Because what they did over the Obama years to now is they just let everybody in on the grift. Yes, we are. Actually, I look at all of that. Don't forget Panama.
Right, exactly.
It's a massive, massive staging operation. And this has been staged this way, I believe, since Obama era.
Me too.
That they have been staging it. And I think you should specifically look at Panama. And here's why. Panama is that last head of it at the canal. And so Panama is going to get a cut whether they like it or not. What I find very interesting in these swing states, let's just look at Arizona, you will find something very interesting about mayors and or board of supervisors and stuff. They happened over the last few years all to make trips to Panama.
Wow.
Now, Panama and Costa Rica are currently a non-reporting account country. Means you can put money there and it doesn't have to be reported to the United States. But these various boards of supervisors have been spending a lot of time there. I thought it was very ironic that Stephen Richer, right, the one who was using Soros money and State Department money to get this stuff done, when he was testifying on his behalf during the Kerry Lake trial, he was testifying from no place but Panama, right?
Really?
That's exactly where he was sitting when he did it. And so I think a very large staging operation has gone on. And this is what's played out. And this is why I tell you, their backs against the wall. They are too far in this
I agree.
To pull out. Now, ironically, the world, the Nobel Society, just granted the Nobel Prizes. The three winners of the Nobel Prizes are the economists who basically developed the theory that said, the reason the world has poverty is directly the result of colonialism and how we have colonialism and capitalist societies. And those guys just won the Nobel Prize. I tell people this is not about Harris or Trump, has nothing to do with it. Here's how I tell people, you need to learn how to talk to a Democrat, quit talking to Republicans. You got to talk to the people that you think hate you and maybe you hate. Here's why. We are all exactly in the same boat. Our wallet. We're getting our butts kicked. Prices are through the roof. Food is through the roof. Our country's falling apart. We have no government services. They're not doing their jobs. They're tearing us down. And I think you can have that discussion with a Democrat and should, and say, and you should offer the olive branch. I could give a rat's ass if you're trans. That's you. That's what you decide to be, and that's good for you.
Right.
But right now, we are either Americans or we're not. And I would say I'm willing to put everything aside. And so here's how I look at it. We've currently, these last 4 years, had a presidency that is permanent politicians. They have accomplished nothing.
Right.
And then we look at Trump, that they've told you is bad, bad, bad. But let's look at Trump, a businessman who wasn't a politician. He came in, and every single sector and every single group went up in earnings and holdings and income for the single best time in American history. Well, the system couldn't have that, so they got rid of them. And in 4 years, we became the worst we've ever had. So the bottom line is, I look at it this way. Do an experimental vote. And it means this. Look at it very focused. Donald Trump kicked ass economically. We all did great. Biden kicked our ass. We've all done horrible. How about you just vote one more time economically? Just one.
Right.
You're not voting for Trump, you're voting for economics. And by the way, Trump can't run again. He's only going to be a one-term president. It's not going to matter. Why don't you just vote economic, put him back in, let him do what he's going to do and clean it up? And we got 4 years to breathe and figure this out and to come up to a better solution. But we cannot do it with the gun and cannon of fear pointing at our head. The GOP killed us on that. Just one note, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
But think about this. I think we can all agree we know our politicians are rat bastards.
Oh, yeah.
I think we can all agree that our politicians, predominantly as a whole, do not deliver on what they say. They never deliver their promises. Now, I want you to think about it. I think all of us know that. But then you go to the other side, and they are going to recommend to us how we should vote our ballot. Bank your ballot. How ignorant is it to listen to the very people that break every promise, don't care about you, throw you to the lion's den, but you are going to take their advice of how you should handle your ballot? That's lunacy. I believe if you've got your mail-in ballot, do not open it. Don't open it. Take it with you. Go to the vote center where you are supposed to vote in the polling place. There's a 50-50 odds that you are going to be told, I'm sorry, you've already voted.
Right.
Don't get pissed. Ask them politely to repeat it. They're going to repeat it because it's just a person, probably innocent, reading a computer saying, well, I'm sorry, Ms. Jones, you have voted.
Right.
At that time, request that the supervisor take a look, because you just swear, don't pull out your ballot yet, and it better not be open. I did not vote by mail. The supervisor is going to come over and tell you the same thing, and then they're going to tell you, we'll give you a provisional ballot. Because, see, it's law. They cannot refuse you to vote. They have to give you a ballot.
That's important
federal
for
law.
people to know. Okay,
right.
Great.
And so they're going to give you a provisional ballot. Now, they tell you, we'll check later and verify it. That's horseshit. They don't bother with it. Take that provisional ballot and then just basically step away. And at that time, you call your local sheriff, not your police department, your sheriff. And you say, look, I'm here at a retail place. That's the SIC code, what these are, retail place. You don't say polling place because that makes it election law. You're not dealing with election law. And you tell the sheriff, I watched somebody steal my identity right in front of me and I'm still here.
Right.
I would like to file a report. That's all you got to say.
Okay.
The deputy will show up and take your report. Now, the deputy is going to walk to that first person, and the second person is going to be told the same thing. Sorry, it shows they already voted, but we gave them a provisional.
Right.
Deputy is going to come back to you. You show your driver's license to the deputy, and only at that time you hold up your mail-in ballot, which better not be open. You say, you see this ID on the address here, and you see this? This is me. This is my mail-in ballot. I have not voted it. Never let that ballot out of your hand. They cannot seize it as your property. And right at that time, you file identity theft. Now, why identity theft? Okay. Don't say crime, don't say fraud, don't do that stuff that we got set up on and smothered with a pillow. Do not do that. Basically say my identity was stolen. Then what you've now empowered, the very people that have the power to investigate, which is the sheriff, they're investing identity theft. And by the way, if they find a pattern, it could overturn anything.
Right.
And that's why you vote in groups, and they're going to find a pattern. But you got to have that ammunition in your hand. You never surrender that ballot, and you just let law enforcement work through it. But it's identity theft. Outside of that, gather friends together, make it a voting party, go together. So you have witnesses in the line. And I'm going to make one other recommendation. Do not go dressed as MAGA. Do not wear camouflage, fools. They say they were trying to wage a war.
Right, I know.
I'm going to ask you to get your Halloween on. I want to see you in tie-dye. Dye your freaking hair pink and blue, and let's run the largest psychological operation ever on the media and on the left, and let's convince them, look at all these liberals out voting for Kamala, and let's kind of do a little psychological mind screw to them. You'll find me, just use the hashtag, Jovan's my first name, Jovan. It's like the 70s cologne, and I swear to you, when I sweat, I do not smell that good. Hutton, like E.F. Hutton, you might want to listen to me. And Pulitzer like the prize, but I'm more like the free parting gift if you hurry up and order now. You'll find me on Rumble, rumble.com, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer, / Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. I broadcast every day, 7 days a week, 7 a.m., 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. My show called Cut the Crap, CRAP, Culture, Race, and American Politics.